Well, welcome YouTube friends and family to today's edition of the Wellness Homesteader. So, if you checked out the thumbnail and the title, I want to share a little bit with you about microplastics today. So, being the Wellness Homesteader, I'm very interested in articles and research on harmful things in our environment that may be causing us difficulty. And I found an article at my local pharmacy while I was waiting on my mom's prescriptions in Consumer Reports. Now, this article was actually from April of 2020. So just understand that the data is from there. It's not from 2021, but still, I think it's very relevant data. But according to this article, yes, we are consuming in our bodies as much as a credit card size amount of plastic each and every week. So let's talk a little bit about what microplastics are, where they come from, and how you can help yourself not eat one of these every single week. Stay tuned. So before we get started, a couple housekeeping items. I wanted to share a product with you because I'm sure you can tell by looking at me. I'm a little bit under the weather and I'm not sure if I'm sick or if it's just seasonal allergies, but kind of have some respiratory symptoms. And no, I don't think I have the B at all. That's enough said about that. But I wanted to share a product with you that I think is really great. So I bought this throat soother. So if you've ever heard of throat coat tea, it's a good herbal tea supplement. Really does help you to feel better. Now, if you don't like anise or black licorice, you're probably not gonna like this tea. I absolutely love black licorice. I don't eat it anymore because too much licorice makes too much Kim, but at any rate. And the second thing is, please excuse the way I look, guys. I did the best I could, but I do have dark circles and my hair is wet, not fully wet, but wet. And a couple of you have asked me privately, what's up with what's up with your hair? Well, I have not cut my hair. I've been wearing it in like a tight bun because I have not been blow drying my hair because I'm trying to grow my hair and heat makes hair break off. So for those of you who were concerned that I cut my hair, no, I didn't. It's not to my waist yet, but it's getting pretty close. So, I'm just on this quest to see how long I can grow my hair. Enough said about that. So let's get into the topic for today. So when did plastics come to be? If you like antiques or vintage items, you've all probably seen ads for Bakelite, or some people call it Bakelite, but it was introduced in the 20s, and it was introduced as, it was really the first plastic material, but the material of 1,000 uses. And from the 20s to present, it has just grown tremendously. So today, think about where you see plastics. So here I have a really, really cute vintagey looking display that goes with my theme. I shared a little sneak peek of Frankie. And guys, I'm sorry, I didn't think about there being a toilet in the video. But, there was, so I hope that didn't offend anybody. But anyway, this is porcelain, but all of these are, I'm sure, plastic ridden for sure. If you're using coated paper plates, if you're drinking from a straw, if you eat food, even fresh vegetables that are packaged in plastic, they're all packaged in plastic, right? Unless you're going to a farmer's market. And at most farmer's markets or like Piper Orchard, they have the plastic bags available. You don't have to put it in a plastic bag, and they do use paper sacks for your takeaway, but there's just plastic everywhere. Think about laundry detergent. Think about your prescriptions, guys. What's it in? A plastic pill bottle, or your vitamins, if you take vitamins. It's in our food. It's in beverages. Depending on how they're packaged, they can definitely be wrapped or supported by something that is plastic. So, since 1950, the world as a whole, not just the US, has produced 10 billion tons of plastic. Do y'all have any idea how long it takes for plastic to break down in the landfill? And people throw plastic away. We throw plastic away every day. and very little of that plastic is actually recycled. I will share that as well. In 2018, we produced 400 million tons of new plastic, and that's expected to quadruple by 2050. Quadruple, guys. I mean, it's going to be, everything's going to be made of plastic, that's for sure. So some of these plastics, when they hit the landfill, as I was saying, take hundreds of years to break down. And when they break down, they're breaking off first in little pieces. You've all seen plastic crack. And then those pieces get smaller and smaller and smaller. And that is released into the air and eventually ends up in our food as well as our water supply. So why is this a problem? FDA says, well, plastic's safe, you know, plastic's not a problem. Since, pardon me for taking a drink, but I'm gonna make it through this. So since I'm retired now, and I'm not really a TV watcher, but I've seen some commercials like, if you took this drug or if you were exposed to this product, you may have a legal claim. You know, I think we're gonna see more and more of that for several reasons. So what we're seeing, how many of you have seen the articles, they're heartbreaking, with animals with their stomachs full of plastics because they think it's something to eat because it's in their environment. There's like swirling vortexes of plastic that have been seen from satellite. So it's not a wonder that there are tiny bits of plastic in our food, in our air, in our water. So I know the FDA says it's safe, but think about this. Plastics are made in part from fossil fuels. So we're talking about oil, natural gas, and that in and of itself, I mean, I'm not really wanting to drink or eat oil or natural gas, but that's not where plastic stops. Thousands, literally thousands of chemicals are added to make the plastic harder, to make it softer, to make it more flexible, so that it can be used for that material of 1,000 uses for sure. Pardon me. So there are BPA, and that's bisphenols, I think is what that stands for, and then phthalates that leach into our, oh gosh, I can't read my writing, hold on. So those chemicals are leaching into our food. If you're storing your food in plastic, it leaches into our water, it leaches into the air. So we know plastic breaks down over time, but what I did not know, and I found so amazing, and yeah, I sat at the pharmacy for a long time so I could take notes and read that whole article. Even like opening a water bottle or like unwrapping, if you get like, you know, on the styrofoam trays, also a type of plastic, that have the saran over it. So just unwrapping that can also release microplastics, which are teeny tiny little, invisible to the naked eye. So there's microplastics, and then there's a further smaller particle called a nanoplastic, but we're not going to get into that for purposes of this. I'm just a nerd and I enjoyed reading the article. Our house dust is also completely full of microplastics. And we're going to talk at the end, like, what can you do about this? I'm not trying to horrify you. I'm trying to educate you. So I'll share a little truth about me. Love to clean, hate to dust. Hate to dust. Would rather not dust. And the best thing that you can do for dust in your house is not to use like a feather duster or even a fluffy duster. You know, you need to wet it so that the dust doesn't become airborne. So yeah, I just hate to dust, but I still do it. So what can happen from plastics in our environment? Well, there has been proven research that says it increases our inflammatory response. So if you think about what's going on with a lot of our health, there is a lot of autoimmune and inflammatory processes like lupus that I have, psoriatic arthritis that I have, rheumatoid arthritis. So all of those are inflammatory type processes, and I have to wonder if our environment is contributing to the decline of our health. Microplastics also act like magnets for other toxins. So now you've ingested the plastic, which may or may not have bad chemicals in it, and then it's going to further attract bad things that are in our environment, including chemicals that are outlawed or banned, but are still in our environment because we know they hang around for a very, very long time. We know that BPA and phthalates are endocrine disruptors. They affect reproduction. They increase the risk of obesity. So I'm like, okay, yeah, I don't need that. And also our risk of cancer. The problem is, how many things do you have that says BPA free? And you're like, okay, this plastic's safe. The BPA replacement chemicals they are finding are very similar to BPA and are causing the same health issues that BPA created in the first place. So what can you do? Should you live in a bubble? A non-plastic bubble, it would have to be a glass bubble. Well, I just want to give you a few suggestions that might be helpful. So the first thing, drink tap water, guys. If you need to use a filter, hopefully with a non-plastic component to the filter, use a filter, but get away from thinking that bottled water is the only good water, because we know it's full of microplastics, and those microplastics leach right into the water, and plus you're putting it right in your mouth over and over and over. Use glass, not plastic, as much as you can. So I feel my canning jars are a super great option for me, and I've started storing a lot in glass jars, even gallon glass jars with a metal lid, so that I am not getting that exposure to plastic. Learn to heat your food on the stove, under the broiler, in your toaster oven, or if you must microwave, make sure that you're not microwaving in plastic. I'm going to pause you for a moment because I want to show you a container. It's very old. I no longer use it for food storage, but I want to show you what happens to plastic when it's microwaved and used or hot food is put into it. Stay tuned. Okay, guys, I had to retrieve this out of the trash can and kind of wash it off. This I was not using for food, heating, or storage. I primarily use it for my crafts, but after reading this article, doing this research, here's an example of what happens to plastic over time when you're using it to heat things in the microwave. Now, this probably at one point had chili or soup because it's kind of orange stained, but I can take my finger and pick off little pieces of plastic. So, okay, that was part of my credit card for the week. But it's really amazing how many of us still are using containers like this because we're like, well, it doesn't have a hole in it yet. Yeah, it looks ugly, but it still works to store my food. Get rid of it. Buy the glass. Don't store it in plastic. And another thing, and I use it, not very much, but I use it, like saran wrap or even Glad Press and Seal. Okay, that, if you're wrapping your food in that, you're releasing microplastics. And I'm thinking, well, yeah, but aluminum foil is aluminum, which is sometimes linked to Alzheimer's disease or an increased risk for Alzheimer's disease. So like what's left? Well, beeswax wraps are a great solution. So take cloth, you melt a combination of pine tar and beeswax, or you can use plain beeswax. And is it like saran wrap? No, but it's definitely a good alternative to not using plastic. Third suggestion, eat fresh food. So as much as you can, don't put your food in those plastic bags. Don't buy it on the styrofoam trays with the little seal over it. You know, try to eat things that are fresh. And when you have the option not to put it in a plastic container, don't do it. The stores will not like that, but you can still go through the checkout and they can still weigh it without the plastic bag. Vacuum regularly. So if we know that there are a lot of plastic particles floating around in our house, we need to wet dust and vacuum regularly so we're not breathing those in. So where's the plastic coming from? Guys, it's in everything. It's in everything. It's in our carpeting. It's in furniture. There are just so many places that little pieces of plastic are becoming airborne. We can't see it. We might be able to see dust when we vacuum or dust, but you cannot see the actual plastic, so you're not recognizing the harm that it may be causing you. And then my final suggestion, and I will give a shout out to Becky over at Acre Homestead, because her video was actually kind of the motivation for me to do this video. I've had it kind of in the queue for a while and I didn't do it. She was sharing that she personally no longer wants to consume sea salt. And I'm like, well, now why would that be? Sea salt, good. Sea salt, natural, right? That's what you would think. Well, with all the plastic in our environment that's going into our oceans, we're actually getting a lot of microplastics from sea salt. I use a lot of pink Himalayan salt. There's some controversy, as she mentioned, about how workers who, I'll say, mined the sea salt or mined the pink Himalayan salt are treated. So, you know, what's left? Mined salt, like the brand Real Salt. And so that is something, I'm really well stocked on salt, that I'm going to have to change over time. I have Morton table salt, so it is non-iodized. I believe it's mined salt, but I don't know that for a fact, so I'll have to do a little research. So I hope you found today's video helpful. I apologize I'm not 100%, but I didn't want to disappoint and not have a Thursday video. So Saturday, my plan, unless I get super sick, in which I'll put an update in my community tab, I will be doing our next decade in our old-fashioned Christmas series. So until then, be well, be healthy, be blessed, and I will see you all later this week. Take care.